Story 1. I stopped watching the news. Life is way better without it. Story 2. Setting my own boundaries after realizing that when I did not, others set them for me. Story 3. You young kids will think this is crazy, but I am glad to have gotten older. All those things that worried me when I was in my 20s just do not matter anymore. I am 67 now and much happier. Story 4. Learning to get over myself. No one cares what I do and no one is watching me. Why should I care if they are? People outside my circle do not have enough context to judge how I live. So why was I trying so hard to justify my decisions? Once I adopted that mindset, life became significantly less miserable. I do my best to be a decent person and to take care of myself. The only opinions I value are my own, my partner's, and my therapist's. Story 5. I used to be overweight and unhappy. After 3 months of going to the gym, I have lost about 1 stone and feel much better. Story 6. I lost 100 pounds. I have about 100 more pounds to go, but being so obese that you cannot find clothes at Walmart and nearly dying from failure of a non-essential organ, the gallbladder, at age 25 really is not a way to live. I could not run or get off the floor without grabbing something. I used to break or bend lawn chairs. It was not fun and extremely embarrassing. Story 7. I permanently placed my phone on Do Not Disturb and allowed calls only from contacts. This one change saved me from constant, unwanted calls. Life is good on No Ring Lane. Story 8. Breathing exercises. Focusing on deep exhales. After about 10 minutes, my whole outlook for the day changes. Story 9. I printed and framed a Calvin and Hobbes comic in which the father stops working to play in the snow with his child. It hangs in my home office and reminds me of my priorities. I have been much happier because of it. Story 10. Cutting out toxic friends. After years of knowing someone, it can be hard to see that they are no longer the person they were when the relationship began. My childhood best friend became a manipulative, selfish person. For years, I spent time with him almost every day after work and always felt miserable afterward. Everyone around me questioned why I still saw him. I made excuses that seem ridiculous in hindsight. I should have cut ties 10 years ago. Story 11. Yoga. I discovered it at age 56 in 2005. I am not very proficient, but yoga has kept me limber. More importantly, it has greatly improved my inner calm. Whenever someone asks why I practice yoga, I reply, for peace of mind. Story 12. Independent blankets for my wife and me in bed. It is incredible how much better you sleep when you do not wake up with blankets pulled half off or when your blanket is too heavy or too light. I highly recommend them for anyone who sleeps with a significant other. Wow, this post blew up. Thank you for the awards. Story 13. I want to buy a wardrobe of good quality, properly fitting clothing that I actually like. Agonizing over what to wear every morning because items do not fit, are stained, were worn the day before, or do not flatter my shape starts my day badly. Thank you so much for the awards. I really appreciate them. Story 14. Hiking in the mountains. Nothing makes me feel both more peaceful and more excited at the same time. Story 15. I never flossed, never saw a dentist as a child, and no one encouraged or cared about my dental health. Story 16. I am 43 years old and have started exercising regularly again, 4 times a week. Forget the physical benefits for a minute. The mental benefits outweigh the gains all day. Story 17. Eating healthy changed my life. It is amazing how awful you feel after eating a double cheeseburger, extra large fries, and a large soda, yet at the time you do not realize it and just think you are tired. Adopting good eating habits and regular exercise made a huge difference for me. Story 18. I bought a cart that carries my groceries from the car to my apartment. No more carrying 5 bags in each hand. Story 19. Automating simple, time-consuming tasks such as Excel macros saves a great deal of time you may not realize in advance. Story 20. Seeing a therapist. My father died when I was 16, and I did not talk to anyone about it until I was in my 30s. I wasted so many years being angry and sad. Story 21. I stopped caring. Not everyone is going to like you. All you need to do is like yourself. Story 22. Quitting smoking. I could not imagine life without it back then. Life is much better without a constant need like that, not to mention all the health benefits. Story 23. Roomba. Oh my goodness. Not having to sweep dog and cat hair daily is such a blessing. Edit. Lots of replies. It is 4:30 a.m. I am on my phone instead of my personal computer. Thank you for the awards. To answer the more obvious questions, it is an iRobot Roomba 694. It has not sucked up dog feces, but it cleaned up cat vomit, leaving only a little on the floor that would need a mop or a spray and rag. The dirt tray has a microfilter and a collection area. You push one button, it comes out, and you dump it in the trash. It gets under my dining room table because it just barely fits through the chair legs. It does get stuck in my cabinet, but I have it running when I am usually home for lunch and can rescue it. It works on hard surfaces and carpets. Mine does not map the room as far as I am aware. It does not have a forward sensor. It just bumps into things and senses that way. That is all. Story 24. Working remotely. Spending money on gas, parking, clothing, and other expenses was simply not worth it for most of my life before I worked remotely. Story 25. Working from home in information technology. Fuck, this environment and industry fit me like a glove. Story 26. I was very shy and self-conscious, but at some point I started living the way I wanted. I wasn't popular to begin with, so what was I risking? Would girls still be interested? I started doing things I had been afraid to do before, including being more outgoing. I know this sounds like generic advice, but it really worked for me. Every time your brain says, that won't work, or what will people think, or any version of don't try, it is a perfect opportunity to do something you feel drawn to. Dye your hair pink. Try painting even though you think you will be bad at it. Fart and then say, it was me. Okay, maybe not the last one. Story 27. Taking vitamin D supplements and using a light therapy lamp in winter makes a big difference. After my first year of university, I realized I did poorly in the winter semester because I felt depressed and exhausted from lack of sunlight. I live in Canada, where days are much shorter in winter. When you leave before sunrise, return home after sunset, and keep your skin covered all day, you miss a lot of vitamin D. I take vitamin D supplements each morning and use a light therapy lamp to simulate sunlight in the morning. I feel much more energized and awake during the day. I highly recommend this to anyone who feels exhausted in winter. If you are interested in a therapy lamp, search for Seasonal Affective Disorder Lamp or Light Therapy Lamp. Story 28. I am removing from social media everyone from high school I no longer see. Story 29. I stopped drinking alcohol. I don't criticize anyone who drinks, but I was a problem drinker. Quitting improved every part of my life. Story 30. Learn to be okay with saying no and start every relationship, personal and professional, with healthy boundaries. You never need an excuse to say no if you do not want to do something. Do not feel like going out with friends tonight? No, thank you. Do not want to work an extra shift at work if it is not mandatory? No thanks, boss. Boundaries are important, and when set from the beginning, they are much easier to maintain for your mental well-being. Thank you to everyone who shared their stories about boundary setting. Stay strong if you still struggle with this. Story 31. I quit drinking, and as sobriety came, I looked myself in the eyes and said, "You are allowed to be happy. I am literally living a different life now." Story 32. Letting my pride and ego take a few hits changed me. I used to be a very self-centered person in my early life. When I allowed myself to be brought down a peg or two, I gained new perspectives on life and the people around me. I do not have the words. Thank you so much. Story 33. Throwing out all my socks and buying a single type. No more looking for pairs. Story 34. Committing myself to a mental hospital and subsequent treatment. Story 35. Losing 200 pounds. Edit. Laughing out loud. To answer everyone's question, I meant weight. I was formerly a 397-pound fat chick. I have never even seen a British pound. I lost the 200 pounds on my own through diet and exercise. Then about 24 pounds of excess skin had to be removed surgically. Story 36. Getting your teeth fixed. Thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Story 37. Starting antidepressants changed my life. I am a different person in a good way. I feel more confident, more caring toward others, and I still maintain clear boundaries. Story 38. Drinking more water. Thank you everyone for the awards and upvotes. Story 39. It's actually amazing how much more energy and satiation I get from homemade unsweetened oatmeal than from the oatmeal in packets. Story 40. Selling my house. Don't get me wrong, homeownership is great at times, but I was drowning in debt, and selling the place allowed me to reset my entire life. A huge weight was lifted from my shoulders overnight. Also, no more mowing the lawn. Story 41. Toy, rotten, flowery, hurry, squeal, advise, intelligent, enter, and used, silky. Story 42. At 28, I accepted that I was a very emotional man and allowed myself to cry whenever I needed to. I cried almost constantly for about a year, as if catching up on feelings I had repressed my whole life. However, about a year ago it tapered off, and that was disappointing. It is as if I grew thicker skin by allowing myself to feel painful emotions, and it has become increasingly difficult to cry the way I used to. Felt really good to let everything out. Story 43. Fixing my relationship with food. Control portion sizes. Reduce junk food to occasional treats. Increase vegetable intake. Limit red meat. Limit dairy. Limit refined sugars. I have not stopped any foods completely. I do not punish or scorn myself if I have chocolate, crisps, candy, takeout food, or similar items, but I have cut them back significantly. This change has been a major contributor to why I am 20 kilograms lighter than I was in January 2021. Story 44. An electric toothbrush is much easier to use and cleans up to 100 times better. I have no problem brushing for the recommended 2 minutes because my hand and arm do not get tired from brushing manually. Story 45. Thyroid treatment. I spent my teenage years with very low self-esteem because I was too skinny. Turns out I had undiagnosed hyperthyroidism. I wish it were better known. I can only imagine how many people struggle with their self-image because they have an endocrine condition that is asymptomatic. Story 46. Finally developed the courage to tell my ex to get out. He was verbally and emotionally abusive to me and my kids. He had me believing I was a useless person and incapable of existing without him. Good riddance. Story 47. I do not eat after 7 p.m. I no longer have heartburn at night, and I feel much fresher in the morning. Story 48. This is a change I made only a few months ago, but it has been major. I struggle with clinical depression and extreme executive dysfunction, two conditions that exacerbate each other and have taken a lot of time out of my life over the past 20 years. I have been doing better but still experience long periods when I am barely functioning. It is a miracle if I can even make it out of the house, let alone do anything productive. My therapist is a strong advocate of being kind to oneself, and in theory that is the mentality we should all have. There is no reason to punish ourselves when we are already struggling. But for me, the idea that I should be kind to myself is far too easy to corrupt. For example, I might not clean my kitchen because I am tired and decide the kind thing is to let myself sleep for 15 hours or watch Netflix. It is not kind to let myself do that. It only makes me feel much worse, both physically and mentally. It is too easy to fall into that trap and make it a habit. On the same note, constantly valuing productivity over rest is the other nasty end of that spectrum. I burn myself out by being overly productive, and then I have no time for creative pursuits, fun, or rest. Then I inevitably crash and end up back in the pit of depression where I started. It is simply not sustainable. Finally, my therapist came up with a narrower concept to follow. Is what you are doing right now the restorative thing? That was the key for me. Every day I ask myself if I am doing something restorative, and if I am not, I go do something that is. Most of the time it is something productive or creative, and when it is not, I do something fun or restful. There are times when lying in bed and watching Netflix is the restorative thing, but usually the answer is somewhere else, and I am much happier and more functional for it. Story 49. Yoga. Getting my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder treated. Zinc and magnesium supplements. Sodium lauryl sulfate-free toothpaste so I do not get mouth ulcers anymore. The books Treat Your Own Neck and Treat Your Own Back that fixed my chronic neck and back problems. Many people have asked about the neck and back books. Information is available from the Mackenzie Method. There is a good resource for adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder self-screening available online. If you want to seek treatment for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, get a recommendation from someone who is being successfully treated by a doctor who is experienced in this area. In my humble opinion, a good attention deficit hyperactivity disorder doctor will order blood tests to check zinc, magnesium, iron, vitamin D, vitamin K, and B vitamins before prescribing medications. Story 50. This is more of a women's thing, using menstrual cups instead of tampons and pads. It was life-changing. I no longer feel gross down there for 7 days every month or have to deal with dry tampons. Story 51. Decluttering. Having less stuff and more space meant everything would be tidy or easy to tidy. I got rid of things people passed on to me because they felt too guilty to discard them themselves. It was so freeing. Story 52. I cut my mother out of my life a few years ago, and I wish I had done it as soon as I moved out, just as I did with my father. My life has been so much better since she has not been in it. I feel better about myself. I am not being treated badly, and I can do what I want without fearing judgment. I am glad I never reconciled. From what I hear from siblings, she has not changed. She still has to be right all the time, she still lies, and she still behaves in authoritarian ways. I have pretty much written her off. She has 7 years to reach out, apologize for the hurtful things she did, take responsibility for those actions, and show that she has changed or is in the process. If she does not do that within the next 7 years, there is no way I will reconcile with her. Story 53. Guided breathing videos like Wim Hof and Soma breathwork are great short meditations lasting 10 to 20 minutes for people who cannot turn their thinker off, like me. Story 54. Taking singing lessons has opened up a whole new world of creativity for me. I have played music my whole life but never learned to sing, and I wish I had done it sooner. Story 55. Working out is amazing for the mind. My mood improves instantly. Story 56. I had breast reduction surgery. Before, I wore a bra in cup size K. My back hurt. My breasts were heavy and got in the way. They developed an unpleasant odor underneath despite regular washing, and finding clothes was difficult. The doctor removed almost 10 pounds of tissue. Now I can go into any store and buy a bra off the rack, and my upper back doesn't hurt. Story 57. A cat. He's an asshole, but look at my profile picture. He was and is still so cute. I can't be mad at him, and he brightens the evenings. Edit. I should have, of course, added a few pictures from the beginning and a few memes. Also, you may notice he likes to lie on his back a lot, but no belly rubs. Story 58. I bought my first house. There is something about having your own home that you can do anything with that is liberating. It is especially satisfying if you are even slightly handy with a hammer, a drill, and basic homeowner do-it-yourself tools. Disclaimer. If you have never bought a home, do not buy in this insane market. Wait for it to return to normal. Story 59. Testosterone therapy. I was in my late 30s and miserable. I was drinking too much, had severe depression, lethargy, no libido, the works. I searched my symptoms online and everything pointed to low testosterone, but my doctor refused to prescribe testosterone, saying my numbers were within the acceptable range. The acceptable range is 200 to 800 for men aged 18 to 80. I was at 200. I went to a pay-to-play clinic and they started me on testosterone that same day. A few months later it began working and everything in my life improved. 6 to 7 years later I still get a weekly injection and I am as happy as I can be. Tell everyone I know to at least get their numbers checked so they know where they stand. These days more clinics offer female hormone therapy that can have similar effects to testosterone in men. Story 60. I am taking medications that actually work. They are a blend of psychotropic medications to manage my depression, anxiety, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I will not name the medications because what works for me may not work for someone else, and I cannot recommend medications. Please do not ask me to name them. Story 61. Habitual exercise 4 to 5 days a week reduces pain, improves sleep, and enhances overall well-being. Story 62. Walking every day. I used to live with my mom, and my dog would just go to the yard. Now that I live in an apartment and have to walk the dog at least twice a day, I find it kind of nice. Story 63. A night guard helped me. I ground my teeth so much at night that I was damaging them and developing large, tight jaw muscles. My dentist said this was probably due to stress. The night guard not only saved my teeth, it also improved my sleep and made me feel much more relaxed. If I do not wear it, I notice the difference the next day. I wish I had known this years ago. Talk to your dentist. Story 64. My whole life I used mint toothpaste, and I hated the taste so much I would gag. When I felt depressed or lazy, I simply would not bother. Cinnamon toothpaste tastes like less spicy hot tamales candy, and I brush my teeth much more often now. I have a better start to my day instead of gagging on the overwhelming taste of mint. Story 65. The Single Life. No one telling you what you should or should not do, say, think, or be. Story 66. Dressing and grooming myself like I care. It turns out the impression you make on people can be the deciding factor in many things. Story 67. Divorce. Thank you all for the upvotes and awards. I will try my best to upvote everyone. You are all very kind. Story 68. I quit my job and opened my dream business, a makerspace. Update. I have been trying to reach 250 comment karma so I could do live streams from the space to share what we are up to. I tried for months, and this comment just took us from 59 to 490. Thank you, everyone. Story 69. Fixing my posture made many pains go away when I stood up straight. I no longer have back pain or aches. The hard skin on my feet even cleared up. Story 70. Continuous positive airway pressure. Best I can determine. My sleep apnea began at around 14 years old. I was not diagnosed or treated until 35 years old. Literally within 1 week of treatment, I went from sleeping more than 12 hours a day and still feeling exhausted to sleeping 6 to 7 hours and feeling energetic. My memory and motivation are much improved. I might even have died if I had not received treatment. If I could have afforded health care in my 20s, I might be retired by now. If a loved one snores, stops breathing briefly, and shifts position repeatedly during sleep, they should be tested for sleep apnea. Treatment dramatically improves both quality and quantity of life. Story 71. I am deleting all social media. I do not care about other people's lives or how they look in posed, cutesy pictures. Story 72. Stop having toxic friends and avoid toxic family members. My life has improved exponentially since then. Story 73. I bought a bidet plug-in. I can't believe these aren't in every bathroom. Cost $49 and I have never felt cleaner. Story 74. Becoming a software developer. I was an engineer for 15 years before I discovered programming, which had been only a hobby until then. Programming gave me normal hours, better pay, and happier customers. I have been a software developer for 10 years now. I would not want to go back. Story 75. I am going no contact with my dad and low contact with my mom. They earned it. Story 76. I make a really healthy smoothie for breakfast every morning. I cannot believe the difference that one small, easy change has made. Story 77. Abdominoplasty, also known as a tummy tuck. After 2 cesarean deliveries and 1 vaginal birth with very large babies, no amount of weight loss could eliminate my large abdominal apron. I lived with it for 27 years. The very expensive surgery changed my life. Story 78. Quitting Facebook led to an instant improvement in my mental health. I am also sober. I have been sober for over 3.5 years, and it makes everything much easier. Story 79. I got a dog. He is my best friend and has been there for me when no one else was. Story 80. I put off getting married for a long time after a bad divorce and raised my kids on my own. I just could not imagine caring for another person while working and raising two little children. I married after they left for college and should have done it much sooner. I do not take care of him nearly as much as he takes care of me. Life is a lot easier. I still do my share, but now I have help. Story 81. I started taking antidepressants. My stomach stopped hurting, the terrible crying spells ended, and I was able to begin functioning normally. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. There is no shame in accepting help. Story 82. I left my sociopathic wife. Within 1 year, I had a great job and bought a home for the first time in over 20 years. No more renting. Within 3 years, I bought my first new car in over 20 years, was able to save money, met a great woman who respects me, and got an even better job making far more than I ever had. Cut toxic people out of your life. Place the blame squarely where it belongs on yourself for allowing people to do this to you, and move on to finally help yourself. I am getting married to a wonderful woman who has her own money, job, and assets. She does not need me for anything. She wants to be with me, and I still do not know why, laughing out loud. She caused me to sink into a deep depression where I could not imagine life any other way. When I finally pulled myself out of it and opened my eyes, the path was clear and the decision was easy. I never dreamed I could do it so quickly. She had me thinking I was worthless. Apparently, I am quite the opposite. I now have self-respect. Story 83. Accepting and embracing being an introvert makes life easier. You do not need as much social interaction as extroverts, and you want more alone time. It is less exhausting when you stop forcing yourself to be someone you are not. If you are honest with others and say you do not want to socialize because you need to be alone, they will understand. That is better than being pushed out of your comfort zone and then acting awkward. When you embrace your introversion, you can become stronger than extroverts. You know when to stay quiet, and when you do speak, people listen and value your opinion. Story 84. I just started eating better and drinking less at 44 years old. I have lost 50 pounds and feel 20 years younger. It is like I have a new life. I fit into a large shirt this week that I have not been able to wear since high school. It feels like I turned back the clock by a decade or two, and now I have a chance to feel good again. Story 85. Instead of trying to look for friends, I started joining activity groups where I met people with shared interests. Making friends felt much more natural this way. Story 86. I bought a decent bicycle. It paid for itself quickly with savings from ride-hailing services and trains. It got me in good shape and helped me discover many hidden gems in my city. I would rate it 10 out of 10 and recommend that anyone who lives in flat cities spend a few $100s on a bike. Story 87. Cardio for 1 to 2 hours a day greatly reduces anxiety and depression, in my experience. Story 88. Yoga. I have always been active and enjoy running, walking, and biking. Yoga is amazing. It strengthens and stretches the body, calms the mind, improves posture, and keeps my chronic back pain at bay. I can do it from home, and even 5 minutes makes a difference. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.